All right, we're sewing up the notch top and dress, and we're gonna add in some elastic to this under bust seam. This will help keep this seam under your bust. You can use any width, 1/4 inch, 3/8. I'm gonna be using this 3/4 inch because I plan on not wearing a bra with this. This is a swim fabric that I'm making kind of a rash guard swimsuit top out of. If you have never added an elastic, I highly recommend measuring it out just like this. Exactly the same width, trimming it. You can even stitch it into a circle before you attach it. I'm going to show you how I do it, which is just going along, adding it in. This is the way I've always added an elastic into seams. This is the way my mama taught me, just by feel. But if you are doing this for the first time, I highly recommend measuring it out first and practicing that way a few times, and then you will also learn the feel of how taut you need to hold the elastic, and you can do it just like me by feel. I had to rethread my needle right here, so I just sped that up so you didn't have to struggle with me. All right, so I've already stitched this under bust seam. And so I'm just going over it again with my knife down, not taking any seam allowance off. I'm just adding this elastic to the seam allowance using the same 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm using a serger. You can use your sewing machine with any high stretch stitch. If sewing the sewing machine, I highly recommend using something like the triple step zigzag. It is super stretchy. You want your seam to look exactly the same before you sewed it and after. If it's wavy, you're adding too much elastic. If it's gathering up your fabric, you're stretching your elastic. So that's why I highly recommend measuring it out first, because you do need to hold it nice and taut, but you shouldn't be stretching it, but you shouldn't be easing it in either. It's a little more challenging than it might seem when you just say, don't stretch it. But since the elastic is usually much more stable than your fabric, you do have to get kind of a feel for it. So I recommend measuring it out, making sure it's exactly the same width as your seam right there, your bodice right there. And then after practicing a few times, you'll be able to do it just like this. This is something that you can add into any under bust seam if you want to have some more support. Again, this is a swimsuit top I'm making here from the notch top and dress. But pretty much any swimsuit, sports bra, if it just has a knit band underneath, I always highly prefer adding elastic there to really hold it under my bust and keep it nice and tight there. I hope this helps if you've never added an elastic into your seam, and I can't wait to see yours.